You folks watching on Rumble and YouTube, I posted this meme a couple weeks ago. Here's what the meme says. You folks who are watching can see it that I'm holding it up, but those of you who are just listening can't. So here's what it says. This was taken from the Last Symptom Podcast, Season 2, Episode 36. I said, nothing and nobody else can define us or determine realities about we ourselves. Only we define our own selves. Other people's opinion of you can only reflect realities about them. It is impossible for their opinion to reflect realities about you. Only your opinions can reflect realities about you. Somebody said to me, well, wait a second. If you're God-fearing, what about God? Does God's opinion of you not reflect realities about you? What mistake are they making with that question? It's a good question, by the way. I'm not discouraging that sort of question. It's a perfect question. The mistake they're making is in confusing what one reflecting realities about himself or herself is, confusing that with somebody who is the ultimate judge. So a person observing realities about you and reaching conclusions, judgments about you. Two different things entirely. Upon whom does God's opinions reflect? God's opinions reflect upon God. We're talking about his opinions, realities about him, what he likes, what he doesn't like. These reflect realities upon him. This is different than him making an observation and passing a judgment. God's opinions are God's opinions. They reflect, they allow us to get to understand who he is, right? But I have free will, and I can share that opinion or I can't. So then I went on to say you might share his opinions or you might not. That reflects upon you. But let's not get two entirely different things confused here. Number one, the things you do and the things you are being reflective upon only you. And number two, God being the ultimate judge in any given thing. There is a difference between when we talk about other people having opinions about you and God having an opinion about you, because God's not limited by having to guess who you are and what's in your heart. He knows all things. He's the ultimate authority on anything and everything. In fact, the Bible describes him as knowing us better than we know ourselves. Furthermore, he's the ultimate authority in everything. He sets the standards for what is good and what is bad. You know, around here in Last Symptom land, we don't talk about good and bad usually. We do sometimes in rare circumstances, but mostly we're talking about what's healthy and what's unhealthy. But once you start getting into a discussion about what's good and bad, God's the ultimate authority on that. To say that God's opinion of you is definitive is not at all the same conversation as talking about, your college professor's opinions about you, or going to the grocery store and bumping into somebody and their opinion of you. Now, God is not limited by trying to guess who you are and what your heart condition is and all of the context and circumstances in your life. God is not limited by those things. So God still only, things that God likes, things God does, these only reflect truths about God. But that's not the same as him looking at your choices and making judgments about those choices. This is different than your fellow man observing you and making, coming to conclusions, right? Your fellow man doesn't know and cannot put into context every single circumstance in your life. Only God can do that. But even when he does that, this is not his opinion. This is not what just God thinks about you. He's able to observe the thing in its entirety and make a judgment Only your opinions can reflect upon you among all of the human opinions that exist out there. Their opinions can only reflect truths about them, and your opinions can only reflect truths about you. Do they align with God's opinions? Well, they might or they might not.